Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary, distinguished guests, welcome to Ridiculous, the Life of a Clown. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ridiculous Life of a Clown. I'm Gherkin Picklewater. I'm here today with Summer Shapiro. Summer, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. I am Summer Shapiro. I have done a lot of different crafts of performance through the years, but I know you specifically from clown and circus and the Circus Center in San Francisco. And yes, I think what brings us here today is my history of creating solo and duo clown theater shows on this coast and on the East Coast and all the things that came from there.
What brought you to clown in the first place? What is your origin story? How did you end up in that art form?
Great question. Well, I started as a young girl with fantasies about acting and being in movies, and that brought me to study that. And I went to, a very incredible performing arts high school, actually, where a lot of the faculty were clowns.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you knew this, but I went to San Francisco School of the Arts, which is a public magnet high school. And you have your major basically as a teenager. And after lunch every day, I had no more academics and I had hours of theater. And we did what you would expect. Like we did some Shakespeare and we did some, Meisner and stuff, but we also did clown and we also did Asian theater forms and we did capoeira and stage combat. I'm eternally grateful to the director, Philip Raher, for who he brought in. He brought in Joan Mencken and Jeff Raz and, I grew up in San Francisco going to the Pickle Family Circus. So then when they came back around as my teachers in acting school, I was like, there's a connection here between my history as a child going to the circus in San Francisco. And then as we went deeper, Jeff brought in Commedia dell'arte masks and Joan brought in, her clowning and really awesome yoga formats too, I will say. We did some wild stuff. I remember doing a benefit concert because Salvador Santana's son went to our school and we did these benefit concerts at the Fillmore with him. And I remember doing a clown piece on the Fillmore stage with my, theater buddies. Brady Gill was one of them who was in my clown class at the Clown Conservatory. So there's all this crossover and that impacted me a lot. And I think I was challenged to think, okay, my teachers were telling me, maybe you got into acting because you wanted to do the traditional trajectory of film and television, but there's a lot more than you realized. And I went on to go to UCLA, and I was always drawn to more physical forms of performance art and storytelling. And there were a few times where I had the opportunity to collaborate with musicians. And I realized wow, I love how music tells story. I love it. It's so emotional. There's, arcs in a song, beautiful beginning, middle, climax, and what an incredible storytelling device. And I did these experiments where I would tell a story physically without any words. And I realized I loved that. And so when it was time to graduate in Los Angeles, I could stay in Hollywood and try to do that, or I could do something else. And staying terrified me. So I literally, the next day after graduating from UCLA in the acting department, fled back home to the Bay Area. And I enlisted in the Clown Conservatory's 1-year clown program. I just knew I wanted more physical skills. I wanted to dive deeper and I wanted that rigor too. And there's something incredibly serious about the play of clown and circus that I was always drawn to. Like the heart and dedication and commitment that goes into making good circus and clown and theater, and really any art actually, is pretty intense. And it's always been so funny to me that you have to work so hard to not care or to be funny or these things. And so I was really fascinated by that. And I remember seeing Molly Shannon's, I don't remember, do you remember Molly? Yeah, you know Molly, duh. Her graduating classes show, and I was like, this is a whole nother world I really want to learn about. And so I went, and after coming out of clown school, which by the way taught me a lot, it was probably one of the harder years of my life. If you want to ask me about that, I'm happy to tell you. But ego melting stuff. And getting through the other side with a ability to be okay with looking bad was very valuable, very, very valuable. So left clown school and was kind of like, I guess I still don't want to go into the traditional audition thing. Why don't I see what happens if I just try making my own show? And I think I started collaborating with Suzanne Santos.
Okay.
Is where I started. She was in the year after me. I loved her.
She was in my year. Yeah.
Yeah. I just loved her presence and comfort on stage. She also she went to Del Arte, I believe. And that taught me a ton. Oh, wait, no. I can't remember. It's blurry, but she directed me in a solo piece that taught me how funny my personal significance is. It was taken from a lot of journals and stuff and writings about crushes and my feelings and the universe. And then we put it on stage. And I remember at this point in the rehearsal process where she was like, you need to get me this script if I'm going to direct you. And I was sifting through actual journal entries I wanted to put on stage because I thought they were brilliant. And I said, Suzanne, I feel weird doing this because like when I wrote them, it felt so big and real and beautiful. And then now I'm seeing them on paper and reading them out loud and imagining them on stage. And it's just ridiculous and hilarious. And she's like, I know. Exactly. I was like, oh, this isn't going to be some revelatory show that I thought it was going to be about my inner brilliance. It's going to be funny about my human foibles. So that kind of started me on a trajectory of exploring, the stuff that my mind thinks is really important and special about me and my personality is actually really good material for clown. And then I went on to do, In the Boudoir, and that went to various festivals. And then I think the last piece I made, and I made Pants with April Wagner. That was incredibly fun. That was variety show style, which I absolutely love. So we would hire other artists to go in between our acts.
Oh, nice.
And then we made it seem like it was our show that we were producing that was also falling apart. So that was really fun. I just love connecting with an audience, directly. I love bringing them on stage. I love it's just presencing. It brings everybody to the right here and the right now. And I think I'm getting a little, all over the place with my details, but I do want to mention one of my favorite shows to make, which was Legs and All with Peter Musante. And I would say that was a great example of my maturation. I don't know. I feel like my earlier shows were messy, and I loved making messes and shocking audiences with messes and confrontation. And then Legs and All for me was more musical and more about the pictures we were painting and the story we were telling.
Definitely.
And the music was guiding the whole thing. And we actually had an original score written for that. Brandy Brandis, she was an artistic in the residency at the Climate Theater with me at the time, and I asked her if she wanted to help write music for something, and that's where the music originally came from. And then she let us take it to an incredible fiddle player, one of Peter's friends who's in Blue Man Group. And it was so fun. In his little office, we brought our main set piece, which is this massive wooden box, into his little office in Florida. When he was off the show in Orlando and had breaks, we'd go into this office and mime the show in this tiny little room in the box, and then say, okay, and then the note goes up here when my hand goes like this, and then it goes down when my hand goes down. And he was like, okay. And just, we wrote it like that. And it all came together. And then as the show grew, Peter did a little sound design and stuff as well. And I was just really proud of that show.
It was a great show. The Boudoir I've seen multiple times. Legs and All I think I only got to see one time, but I have really vivid memories of you in the box eating, I think were macaroons off the side of the box, slowly emerging from the box and pulling them in with your mouth. It was a very physical show. It seemed very precise in a lot of ways, and I enjoyed them both. I mean, not to blow smoke up you, but I think that you're one of the greater clowns that I've ever seen. I mean that sincerely. I put you up there with Gilkey in my personal estimation of people doing this art form. When you're performing, what are you trying to accomplish?
I love that question. Well, the first thing I have to kind of say out loud is that I kind of am seeing my performing timeline as having a few different segments. Like the timeline we're talking about is early phase. And then I took a big break, which we'll get into, and now I'm re-entering a new phase. So, but I think I might answer the question in the same way, regardless. When I get on stage, my goal is to be as honest as I can, in hopes to make a truly alive, authentic moment of connection where I can be myself and the people in the audience have permission to kind of be a deeper, more authentic version of themselves. So I like bringing up awkwardness. I like bringing up shock at, the unkemptness, the vulnerability of the clown, the earnest effort to really fulfill a deep human desire that the clown has and most likely will always fail, and what that brings up in us, and that recognition of our humanity in another on stage. I love that tenderness that can come from that, and I hope to create moments of authenticity, tenderness, and connection through that process.
That's beautiful. Authenticity off what you said. Authenticity, tenderness, and connection. I think about, I'm going into a show in April that we're doing an act that I haven't done in a long time, and it's an act I've done a few different ways, usually with a lot of patter, just a lot of patter, and I'm trying to embrace the idea of doing it silently this time. um, and it's a burlesque act. So it is just I just walk out and slowly take off all my clothes and place them on a chair, and then I do a little dance after I'm almost completely naked, and
Yeah.
so it's a different approach to the style of that kind of performance of burlesque. But normally there's a great deal of patter where I focus in on one person in the audience and deliver my whole spiel just to them, trying to make a direct connection with that one person. And I'm trying to embrace the idea of how awkward can I make it if I don't say anything? How vulnerable can I make this? And mind that for the comedy as opposed to the cleverness of the dialogue. Because the real comedy in the piece is the part where I'm dancing. Just a fat naked guy jiggling around for like a minute and a half. It's a very short dance period. But yeah, it's something I'm trying to embrace. The idea of being more vulnerable and more real and more specific to the moment whenever I can.
Before you leave that, I think
Yeah,
I just want to say I think that's beautiful and such a huge step and a brave thing to do. And I think you probably will find some good shit there.
so.
It's also super scary, and sometimes it doesn't go well, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And I feel like I had times where my silence was painful, and I just moved through, but it was data points for me, and I was able to become more resilient and more present and more vulnerable through it. And then there was just this ability eventually to work with the silence that was spiritual, honestly. I mean, I felt the most connected to God when I was telling a story without words on stage.
Nice. I like that. Um, yeah, my other main, like as a clown, I don't have a lot of acts. I've really been focusing on improv for the last couple of years because it terrified me in the beginning. I find that's true of a lot of clowns. That improvisation, even though we're supposed to be in the moment and reacting to everything around us, the art form of improvisation is terrifying to a lot of clowns, and they don't want to do it. They don't want to take those kind of risks. And
Yes.
so that's what I've been focusing on. But I don't have a lot of acts. But my other main act, there's a lot of silence. I'm just inside of a box with the box closed, not doing anything for extended periods of time, while the audience sits there and just stares at the box and presumably wonders what's going on inside the box. And I found that when I'm in my groove, I can really stretch those periods of silence out and mine them for comedy. But you really have to be in touch with that moment with how the audience is responding, even though
Yes.
you can't see them. You really have to be connected to your audience in those moments.
Yeah. There you start to need to rely on extra senses almost. It's like yeah, there it's incredible. I feel like us humans, we are the theater, live theater is amazing because it's such a good example of how as a group we kind of sync up in this unexplained, I don't know, I'm sure there's science that could explain it, but like our brains and our energy, it kind of like syncs up and we're tapping into whatever we're seeing on the stage and tracking it and getting all this information, not just from our eyes and our ears. And I feel like depending on where at it as the performer, we can kind of like hold it, steer it, drive it, but it's this subtle thing I don't know how to describe with words almost.
I would say, and it's beating a dead horse for me, but that really sums up my philosophy of clown very specifically. I believe that comedy is uh, a genetically ingrained reaction. Um, that when you are, it's the baring of teeth and barking, smiling and laughing. It is saying that person, and it sounds really negative to people, and I see it as very positive. That person has violated our social contract in some way. That person is bringing danger or foolishness onto themselves, and so we must come together as a group, come together as a tribe to drive them out, to say this is not okay, or these actions are not the norm, and And by baring our teeth and barking together, we do become one tribe together, and that makes us feel stronger because we're not the one on the outside. So by being the clown, being the person who volunteers to ostracize themselves in some way, we're bringing that group together to laugh at us, and then we can control, to a degree, how they respond, and which things they're laughing at, and which parts of our society we're showing them, that we feel are subject for derision. And a lot of that is about personal foibles, and at least in clown. Anyway, I've talked about that on this podcast many times, but that just happened to sync up kind of with a
That's really cool. I know you want to go to the next thing. I can feel it, but there's one little piece I want to put on the end of that, which was the first one you said of, when it's in a disorganized setting and it's like the mob mentality driving out something. It's really interesting how when we consciously take that upon ourselves, we actually get into the power position. But it's this really funny dichotomy we're holding between I'm volunteering to be the thing that you guys are going to laugh at and have all these emotions through and potentially make you uncomfortable. And I'm also in the power position of I am curating this experience for you. And I am a master of ceremonies in a certain respect for this. And I think that shifts the mob into a grateful, group therapy session.
There's so much nuance and so many layers of interaction on a social and emotional level. And there are so many things going on in our brains that are being triggered by different parts of. We just went to see Freestyle Love Supreme, which was decent. I wouldn't say it was great. I'd say it was decent. For an improv show, it's a good improv show, But there was a moment when just two beatboxers were beatboxing together that almost brought me to tears, because who knows why. I could not tell you what it was about that moment that got me so emotional. But there are so many complex interactions going on between the performers and the audience, and within the audience itself, within yourself, in responding to the work. Anyway.
I love that. That happens to me when I watch really good breakdancers, specifically Les Twins from France.
Les Twins?
Yeah, check them out.
Yeah.
What?
I'll look them up.
Yeah, look them
up. So do we want to talk about the transition from clown into your current performing focus?
Talk about whatever.
So
yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell me about your transition away from clown and into your new direction and focus.
It's funny. It's, while things are happening to us in life, we never know what's happening until we're through it. And then we look back and talk about it. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. It was heavily driven by just life circumstance. I was very driven, sometimes to an unhealthy level, to attain some sort of level of satisfaction through my art form. And I think I was looking for an existential level of satisfaction through it, which I don't think you can get from any external anything. It's like, the rest in the peace in your heart, the rest in your soul. And I was looking for it through my clowning, because it actually did touch, at times it was revelatory for me to be in that present moment, in the flow, improvising with an audience and guiding them through this very present, authentic experience. So I was doggedly, what's the next project? What's the next thing? How do I get this going in a sustainable way so that I can feel fulfilled inside? I'm just going as deep and authentic as I can right now. And then that's a precarious place to be. That's like a setup for burnout, right? And it was tricky because every project I did give me a little juice, right? And then it was like, when's the next one? And so eventually I got sick. And I had cancer at a certain point, and I needed to reassess, how I was doing things. And that was really hard and really scary, but a blessing. And because I got to look at, how am I showing up that's not healthy for me? And so I started to get a little more gentle, a little more, softened. And I got through that fine. I ended up moving to New York after that and getting into a little bit more ensemble stuff. I wanted to do some collaborative work. I had Peter, who I had worked with Legs and All on. He had a bunch of artists he knew there because he lived there for years doing Blue Man Group, and I kind of dove right in there, coupled with the people I had met over the years from the Clown Theater Festival. And it's really beautiful, just like I was going to say the word sprawl of people. That doesn't make it sound good, but it was good. A lot of really amazing, dedicated artists. And then being surrounded by all that culture that prioritizes theater making is amazing over there. So I made some experimental theater stuff with sound design and a lot of movements, not a lot of words. Still, I wasn't working in words very much, always physical. Things started picking up. I started collaborating with more musicians. A prepared pianist and composer named Hauschka I met him just synchronistically, and then he came to Legs and All. And eventually I was so grateful for how much he loved my craft that he said, here's all my music. Let me know if you want to make something, whatever you want to do. It was such a beautiful trust he had in me. And so I said, well, why don't we make a music video for your new album? And he's like, sure, whatever song you want. And I picked one, and he said, I've got a filmmaker. I'm going to sync you guys up. You guys do what you want to do. And so he hooked me up with this incredible filmmaker named Jeff Desem, who's from Luxembourg. Hauschka's from Germany. And I ended up going over there, like staying in his parents' house for a week, and we ran all over the country in a little van that we stole from his parents' winery, and trucking this piano around that he had diligently gutted. It was still incredibly heavy, and I just pushed it around this whole country for it was over a week. Actually, we probably had a feature-length film on the cutting room floor for a 4-minute music video. It was hard work, but it was really fun. And it was the story of a piano mover whose car breaks down, and she has to move the piano herself across the landscape of Luxembourg to deliver it to our composer, who makes a cameo at the end. And of course, at the end, when he goes to open the piano is locked, and she was like, oh shit, I left the key in the car that's like on the other side of the world, wah, wah. So it had the comedy element, but Jeff brought this beauty to it. And it was so fun to collaborate with a filmmaker, and so fun to collaborate with a musician, especially one who was so kind and gave me so much artistic license. So that kind of started something where I knew I wanted to collaborate with musicians. And then my buddy Sarah Bareilles reached out and said she was having trouble coming up with a concept for her new single that hadn't released yet, which was Brave, which we have heard a lot on the radio. And she's like, are you up for looking at it with me? And I was like, sure. And I remember riding in the subway, listening to the Brave song before it had been released. She's like, don't let anyone hear it. It's not, I was like, you got it. It was so fun to be like riding the subway from Brooklyn to Manhattan, listening to this song. And the way that I love to write anything, any shows, any video is to listen to music, close my eyes, and see what imagery just starts to play. Kind of feels like I'm not writing it. It feels like it's being written. And that's how I wrote In the Boudoir. That's how I wrote Legs at All. Pants was a little different. We actually used a lot of costume as our inspiration for that. But yes, so I got the images of these disparate people kind of feeling constrained in public, lonely, and then starting to dance and feel just it's okay to be yourself and authentic and bust out. And eventually they come together to dance together. And then Sarah brought in Rashida Jones to direct it. And then I ended up just dancing in it. So that one, I came up with the concept and then others ran with it. But it was still a really neat experience to collaborate with a musician and a totally different music than I'd ever worked with. I was used to working with classical instrumental stuff, and that was pop music. So that was super fun. And then my mom got cancer and died within 7 months. So that was really fucking hard. And I didn't realize until recently how much that affected me. And I tried to continue doing my work, but I just couldn't kind of ignore. I didn't know how to deal with the grief, basically. And it went into my body and it exhausted me and I completely crashed. And I didn't know why. I thought like, well, if only I could do more art, then I'd be better. But no, I needed to just halt. And I went back to the Bay Area and just rested and recuperated. And my cancer came back. So that was a big part of doing that. And I just said, I was angry and I was like, I've been cursing. Is it okay to curse?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. I said, fuck you, theater, fuck you, art. You did this to me. Like I totally blamed my desperate, dogged, obsession with my craft on my illness. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to go live an easy life in California and like work with kids and learn the ukulele and go on hikes. And so, Abraham, I've been doing that. I've been doing that for some years now, and I am healthy and I have some perspective, and I miss my muse. I miss my art, and I miss that being in the creative flow and letting the ideas come and bringing them about and working with an ensemble and the creative process and being authentic and like surrendering to the unknown on stage in front of a bunch of people. It's one of my favorite things. And I, in retrospect, do not believe that my intensity with my art form is what made me sick. So I take it back. I have done a lot of deep therapy work and meditation work, and I have a pretty clear sense of actually why I was sick based on just mental, emotional stuff, which is huge. I'm like so grateful, and I have a feeling it's going to play a role in whatever art I make next. So after being stable for so long and feeling that itch to create for how many years? My mom passed 9 years ago. I got sick about a year after that. And so I've been just kind of gathering my energy ever since. I knew I needed to do something right before the pandemic. I was like, I've had it. I got to do something. You know what I've never tried? Using words. How about let's do some stand-up comedy?
Oh, wow.
So I happened to find this woman who teaches short form, like, what does she do? It's like comedy, storytelling course of some kind. It's very sweet. 6 weeks. She's been doing it forever. Her name is Alicia Datner, and I ended up having so much fun writing, about 15 minutes of material about the foibles and hilariousness and tragedy of being this infinite being that comes into a human body, into a world where nobody really knows what's going on and nobody really knows the best way to like bring up a child. And I had a lot of fun with that. And then she asked me to open for her for a little tour she did. It was winter of 2020. And so I did, and we did a whole culminating live filming of the comedy show at the Lost Church in San Francisco. It was so fun. And then the pandemic hit, and I kind of just I put that on the shelf. I still haven't shared it with anyone. I have the video and I haven't even shared it with anyone. Through the pandemic, I've just been like, okay, so it felt like this momentum wanted to come up and start coming out again. And then, like, we all can relate, it was just a no, like a door closed, And, but as we've been coming out of it, I gratefully have had these beautiful little synchronicities come in. And I met a pianist who is a beautiful, beautiful soul who has been a professional in tech his whole life, but on the side has been like playing piano since he was a little kid and painting, and just it's hours and hours. And his emotional connection to his art is so strong. And we met, and we were instantly like, we should collaborate. So he had this piano single that he's like, I want to release this piano single. Do you want to make a music video for it? And it was very similar to the situation with Hauschka, the German composer, where he was like, whatever you want to do, I don't even want to see it till it's done, go. And I was like, oh, that's amazing and terrifying. All right. And he also is like, I know a guy who does film, who does music video. Let's go talk to him. And turns out this really, really awesome guy who does hip hop music videos primarily had never done anything like, a piano narrative based dance video before. But we did it, and it was so fun, and I'm really proud of it. The single is called November Moon, and the music video for it is on the internet. It's all over. And it was after I made it, I realized, oh, this was a microcosm of my process of feeling constrained and stuck and disconnected from my creativity for so many years after my mom passed. And then this like, well, I can't really just go find someone to help me get out of my shell. I need to just start to move, and I just need to start to experiment. And so that's why this woman starts to just dance in our living room, and she reconnects to herself and her heart, even though she's in this constrained, alone environment, which is really the story that I'm relating to right now and have been for years. And it ends with her, dancing on the beach in abandon and satisfaction. So where I'm at creatively right now, that brings us to present time, is Alicia has asked me to come do a run, stand-up comedy run in San Francisco at the Marsh. We're due to do that in the spring. And meanwhile, I'm realizing like these projects are not going to be the thing that is my anchor. I need to start diving in, and what is the thing that wants to be expressed creatively right here with me in my daily life. And then I can go and like share it out. But I kind of did the reverse before. I was like, I'm going to go share the thing with you, and then that'll make me feel good about me. And now I'm like, okay, no, I need to go dance in the forest for a while. And then, that'll give me my ideas for my next project. And then whatever happens with the project, fine. just focus on the process more than the product. Yeah.
That's wonderful. My next question would normally be what is next for you, but you kind of just answered that. Um, Before we wrap up, a couple more questions, just record keeping kind of questions. Um, if people want to find your work, where can they find it?
I have a website. It is summershapiro.com. It has all the videos that I have directed or danced in or collaborated on there, and a little bit of my older clown work too. YouTube, Summer Shapiro, got my channel. And then I think the place where I'm most active, if people want to like actually message me or find out what's going on current timeline, is Instagram. So it's Summer Shap is my handle.
Is there a project that you've had in your mind that you've just never been able to do because of logistics or money or whatever? Is there some dream project that you would like to pursue someday that you've never got a chance to sink your teeth into?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Well, usually I just answer with whatever comes into my mind first. And you know what comes into my mind is imagery. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love thinking about the artists that have inspired me in the past. Okay. So do you know Pina Bausch?
No?
Oh my gosh. Pina Bausch is like, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but in my world, in my exposure to art, she is the mother of dance theater. And she comes from Germany too. And all of her dance is so human gesture, so human relationship. It's not abstract. It's very about relationships and power dynamics and societal norms, and it's incredible what she did. That was another one that I would cry from watching, and I'm like, why am I crying? So I often had dreams of making larger format ensemble dance theater. I would probably go way less abstract than any dance theater I've seen. I would go pretty human experience, human gesture, and I would love to do, live. If we're talking anything is possible, orchestral, you know, scoring, and an ensemble of some kind. Doesn't have to be big, but just an ensemble of some kind of amazing movers, and really telling the story of a lot of different human emotion and dynamic, and probably the story of moving from inauthenticity and constraint to authenticity and expansion. I mean, that's the story I just love to tell. But I just have to say, another artist that I love so much, that has moved me so much, you probably know, Jamespierre, Charlie Chaplin's grandson. He's French.
Yeah, I have seen some of his stuff at some point.
Incredible set design, and he does it all. He like designs it all. He's like, oh yeah, I can roller skate backwards while playing the violin. So emotionally connected and so not afraid of just being there. And that's the thing that I love about the artists that resonate with me. When they're on stage, they are not pretending. They are just being, they're so okay with being there. They're embodying this. My imperfection and how I am right now is enough. And it's so powerful. So I'd love to be in a small group ensemble of some kind, directing that, a bunch of people who are not afraid to be themselves or willing to learn how to do that. Music, dance, humor for sure. I'm not saying that humor would be gone. A lot of the stuff I'm saying doesn't imply humor, but I think the human condition is hilarious and heartbreaking. And I would want to have both elements. So, yeah.
That sounds incredible, Summer. Okay, one last question before I let you go. If you could tag anyone else to be on the podcast, who would it be?
Oh, cool. Has John been on? Has John Gherkin been on?
Yep, first year.
Okay, great. Um, In the circus world.
Wherever, anything you like. Circus is usually what we go for, but anyone
I
you
mean,
want,
I would love if you could get James on here, but
we can try.
that would be so cool. Oh, wait, hold on. There's more. Oh, you know who would be really fun to talk to? Did you ever see, I don't even know her full name. Did you ever see Nate, the one man show on Netflix?
Yeah, I've Natalie Palamides. I
Exactly.
desperately would love to get her on the show, but I have no idea how to get a hold of her. I even reached out to John because she did a stint at The Idiot with
Oh,
me.
nice.
But yeah, that would be great. She would be wonderful.
That would be really cool to listen to.
Yeah, I'm still going to keep trying to get a hold of her. But okay, Summer. Well, thank you so much for your time and your honesty and sharing with me. And I look forward to everything you're going to make for the rest of your life.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to chat like this with you, and thanks for inviting me and honoring and loving the arts and your consistent commitment to all that. So yeah, it's great to talk to you.
All right. I'll see you later, Summer.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us today on Ridiculous Life of a Clown. If you enjoyed this program and you'd like to get more of it, please consider sponsoring us on Patreon at patreon.com/picklewater. For as little as $1 a month, you can help make sure that this podcast keeps coming to your ears on a regular basis. Theme music by Kevin MacLeod.